All right, everybody, this is Mr. Werrick, and I just want to leave you with some instructions, some guidance on the first part of the set of notes and what you're supposed to be doing in class. So follow along here. I don't think for today there's anything to write down. It's just some stuff to think about. And then I'm going to talk about what it is you need to do when you get to going on the mazes and everything like that. And I'll get that put into Schoology. So the very first thing, day one, here we go. With your group, complete the practice maze. Now, we would all do this together. We would have like one or two mazes per group. But since we really don't have that ability because I'm gone, I'm just going to kind of go through it. So here we are. I haven't really taken the time to study this, so I'm going to pull this maze up, and we're going to look at this practice maze. So here's the warm-up maze. On your marks, get set, go. So I start here, and I'm kind of can't really see around my finger, and this is all dead end stuff. So back up here, coming around the outside instead. This looks maybe like a way I should get through here. Nope, I'm caught down. Okay, come back up, go over here. Okay. We're on the right track now. We're on the right track. Okay, yes, back through this little S curve over here. Going up, and I feel like I'm on the home stretch now. Down, up, down, up, down. Over, around, up. Over, and down here we go. It took me like 51 seconds. So trying to talk my way through it wasn't great. Holding my hand over it on the screen so you can't really see where I'm going next wasn't great. So yeah, I'm almost a minute there. So not a great time on that maze. So discuss with your group, what made the faster times? Whoever got faster times, what made them faster? What could we do to increase speed? So if we're looking at a maze and you want somebody to do well, you want somebody to go fast on the maze, there's a couple things that you can do. Number one is obviously study the maze beforehand. That's always helpful. Number two is probably going to be orient the maze in some way where you can kind of look at it. Like I went top down, and that wasn't great because my hand is blocking a lot of the maze. So if I had gone from the bottom up, it may have actually been easier. I know I used to solve mazes from where it said finish, and I felt like I was doing better, when in all reality, it's probably just I should have been doing that just so that your eyes can still see what's going on instead of having your hand covering up paths of it. I should have probably quickly identified the start and finish, although nothing on here says start or finish. There's just, the entrances could be exits, the exits could be entrances. It doesn't really matter. But I can see that one of them is down here, one of them's up here, and you can see them kind of sequestered off. So you know you need to get from, if you start up here, you know you need to get over here. If you start back here, you know you need to kind of get up here, and you don't really want to get kind of up in here. There's some dead ends, and down through here, you just don't need to be there. Okay, so there's some ideas about how you can make this faster. The idea of how you could make it slower. Well, if you wanted to truly be slower, you can talk about how don't see it ahead of time. Don't study it ahead of time. Don't spend any time going through mazes. The decreased speed, we could definitely go from top to bottom as opposed to bottom to top, or turning the maze and just going left to right or something like that. So here's one thing. Whenever somebody talks about, hey, what would we do to slow this down? I think every year someone has mentioned, what if we did it blindfolded? And of course that would slow you down. It wouldn't make getting the maze done very easy. But what we're supposed to get to, what College Board thinks we should get to, is, do you think you could finish the maze faster, slower, at the same pace with your non-dominant hand? So for instance, I am right-handed, always have been. What would happen if I were to try to complete this maze with my left hand, especially if I'm using a pen or pencil, because I'm not as adept with my non-dominant hand, with my left hand? we're going to conduct an experiment. We're going to compare maze times with dominant hand versus non-dominant hand. What are the variables that we need to address? So here's the deal. If you want this problem to actually be solved, if we want to figure this out, we have to kind of isolate the whole dominant hand versus non-dominant hand. So if we say everybody's going to use their left hand on A, everybody's going to use their right hand on B, maybe that's not the way to go, because if we were to do something like that, then some people are left-handed, so we're not really doing a dominant versus non-dominant hand there, and that messes with our data. And if we have some groups that study it ahead of time and other groups that don't, then we're not really comparing equal times. We want to try to isolate exactly what it is that we're looking for. So it's kind of like, you know, how far can I throw a baseball? You wouldn't want to test that one day with me throwing and I get a run up and I'm throwing with the wind versus another day of you're throwing and you're throwing flat-footed with no run up and you're throwing into the wind. All those extra variables kind of make it to where we're not isolating what we need to isolate and figuring out what we need to figure out. So here's some points to ponder. This is, you know, why would we begin a unit on statistics by a lesson like this? So it gets us talking about, you know, isolating variables and looking at variables and what are these variables going to prove and can we get data from this and how are we going to organize that data? When you think of the word statistics, and I always say this every year, you know, I ask what do the students think of when they think of the word statistics, and I get some different answers, some Vegas type things. I like to think of baseball, and baseball isn't necessarily my favorite sport, but baseball I think is the sport for statistics. You know, somebody goes up to bat and they talk about here's how they're doing against right-handed pitchers, against left-handed pitchers. Here's their batting average. Here's their slugging percentage. Here's the pitcher. Here's his stats against right-handed batters, against left-handed batters, against this team for this month. So I just feel like statistics is such an incredible part of baseball, and the way that they have those all separated out in different ways that you can look at it to try to figure out, you know, what's going to happen in this situation. Is the pitcher going to throw a strike right down the middle, or is he going to try to throw a curveball? Is it going to be an off-speed pitch? Is he going to throw to the outside? Is he going to try to jam the batter inside? You know, it's something that may or may not be predictable, but they look at the statistics to try to make those predictions. So, to get back to the point at hand, this is the full setup and rules for the mazes. So if you need to pause the video right here, these are the rules that you need to know before your group gets started. First off, the dominant and non-dominant hand will be random assigned. So you'll need to do that as a group. Give them a maze to start with and tell them right before they start, okay, you're going to do this dominant hand. Okay, you're going to do this non-dominant hand, and try to not make it always the same one. If you have more than one set of mazes at a table, you need to make sure everybody starts at the same time so you can get some accurate timing on there. No one needs to study the maze ahead of time. So if you're giving the maze to one of the members of your team to complete, make sure they haven't seen it and put it in front of them face down. So then when you say go, that will be when they flip that and start on that maze. One person in each group will be the official timekeeper for the experiment. So make sure that you go on your phone and get in the stopwatch app so that you can get all that stuff exactly how you need it. And one person is going to make sure they need to input the times onto the Google form. So I'm going to look here, maze times, here we go. So this right here, you're going to put your name. I'll switch this class period to where it makes sense. But the time for your dominant hand and your time for your non-dominant hand, this needs to be rounded to the nearest full second. So don't go putting decimals on here. We only want rounded to the nearest full second. So if you're at 19.1, 19.3, you can say, oh yes, it only took me 19 seconds to complete this. But if you are at 20 or 20.1 or 19.6. Like that needs to be 20 seconds. Okay. And you don't need to put the second label on here. All we're going to need is times for those responses. Okay. So just, yeah, one person's going to input those times, get the official time for your dominant hand, the official time for the non-dominant hand, round it to the nearest second. Everybody should start the maze at the bottom. So I kind of did that to illustrate a point. When we were doing that, I finished way slower than I should have. But when we did that practice maze, it kind of lets you know, okay, so we're going to try to take that out as a variable by just saying everyone needs to start the maze at the bottom. That way, everybody's on equal footing as far as that goes. Okay, so that's all you need to do for today. Make sure you get those put in. On day 2, we'll start to talk about our different sets of analysis and how we're going to put some stuff together. You'll put some definitions into your notes, and we'll go from there. So for today, the only other thing you have to do, the substitute has the mazes A and B, and you'll need to make sure that you go ahead and address those mazes. The A is in pink, the B is in green, and there's a couple of white mazes at the end because I ran out of green paper. Okay, hopefully that gets you started, and when I come back on Wednesday, we'll take a look at how to make the graphs and how we're going to analyze this data. So good luck.